Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the first of three specials that we have at the end of the year. Sort of a year in review. We're starting with our favourite albums that Sam and I have covered, and we're going to follow that up with our ranking all of our number one songs from the 8 discographies that we did together. And we're going to follow that with our all-time favourite Christmas songs, as Sam is
dressed for.
Better job than me of showing you what time of year it is if you weren't
I'm
sure.
keeping this channel together. You know, this is why I've had to come back since Genesis.
Yeah. Well, the plan was for you to come back a lot sooner, but schedule.
I think people will have forgiven me by now. So
yeah, the Pretenders. Well, it's not even your fault. You finished the listening.
I did.
The Pretenders video is going to come for all of you who are eagerly awaiting that video.
Everyone's just on the edge of their seat, waiting to see what we think.
Yeah, but it is going to come. And I think I mentioned in a previous video that the album ranking is going to be less frequent. It's going to be different content coming, which is exciting. But don't worry, the album ranking fans, they will still be around. They'll still be happening.
They'll still be there.
So, speaking of the album rankings, we did 8 videos together. We kicked it all off with Depeche Mode on the sofa.
Yeah, there it is.
The legend.
Where it all began.
Roxy Music was number 2. Then we did Slowdive and Crowded House. Then we were separated and we did Talk Talk, Elliott Smith, the Beatles, and Genesis.
Yeah.
Which was us reunited
8
in person.
In total that you've put me through?
Yeah, well, I think all but one of them you enjoyed, seemingly.
Yeah.
And even that one, you liked some songs, so
it was great fun. So much so that my Spotify Wrapped said I am a deep diver. So I've got a qualification now.
So I think we can jump on into it, as Sam said. Which video is it? The real fans will know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Those in the know. Those in the don't know, don't.
Yeah. So I'm going to kick us off at number 10. We're going to do our top 10. I don't know about you. Well, obviously, there's only 8 discographies we did, so some artists are going to come up multiple times.
Yeah. True enough.
My number 10 was my number 1 from this discography, though. My number 10 is Selling England by the Pound.
Aww.
Great album, really, really strong. I thought it's fitting that I kick it off with the most recent discography that we did. This was pretty clearly my favorite Genesis album. I just got it on vinyl for my birthday, and I played it the other day, and it sounds fab.
Lives up to memory.
Yeah, that A side with Dancing with the Moonlit Night, and I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, 3rd of 5th, More Fool Me, all great. And then obviously you get the cinema show at the end as well, which is just the icing on the cake.
It was a good song,
yeah, so I'm very glad to own that. I did also enjoy Nursery Crime and Duke. Those were up there as well for me, which I also got on vinyl. So Genesis was a fun one. Not my favorite that we did in terms of my enjoyment of the albums, but it was a very interesting discovery, especially Selling by the Pound. So that's my number 10.
Very nice, very nice. My number 10 might surprise you, because we've actually had conversations about this album not really being terrific in hindsight. But it's Avalon by Roxy Music.
Okay.
Which recently I've started to appreciate a little bit more. I think because of the big songs having some overplay, I started to think Avalon's, like, even I overrated it. But then I was shuffling through songs one day, driving home from work, and a song came on that I didn't actually recognize, but oh my God, it took me away. And it was Take a Chance with Me, which I think I actually did rank in my top 10 songs. So it had gone away from my memory. But then once it played again, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I looked to see who it was, and I was like, oh, I know this. And so it's given me, it's had a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And so because of that, it just pipped into the list because, hey, clearly it does have some sort of merit. And I think the big songs are pretty good. More Than This is good. I think, yeah, I need to have a little bit more time with it again. That's why it's come in the list. It's sort of a reminder to me to kind of get back acquainted with.
Yeah, Roxy Music was a weird video, I think.
Yeah.
Because it won't surprise you at all. I don't have a single Roxy Music album in my top
No.
10. And the only album that I remember you really being passionate about was Flesh and Blood. So between us, there was only one album that we really felt about.
Yeah.
And I even think now, if I listen to all those albums again, because of the nature of the discography, my ranking would be very different. Because I had Siren at the top, probably number 3 now. I think Stranded and Flesh and Blood I like better, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'd have to listen to them.
The videos are time capsules, really. It's how we feel at the time.
But that one more than any, I think it's because all of it was new and so much time has passed that, I don't know. And it's also, I don't think any of those albums are bad.
No.
And
no.
There are discographies we've done where there are bad albums. So I feel like
it was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, but for me, even Manifesto was okay. So I don't know. If I revisited it, I might come out with wildly different opinions. Maybe. Anyway, my number 9.
The 9?
Selling England by the Pound was a nice surprise, but it really pains me now because there were 9 albums we did, which are among my favorites. They've all appeared on my favorite album series.
Wow.
So by default, they would be among my favorite albums. And my number 9, it pains me, but it is Spirit of Eden by Talk Talk. I do love this album. I love Talk Talk. Colour of Spring was close to making the list as well. I put that down as an honorable mention, but Spirit of Eden was my number 1, and deservedly so for me. It's got the sort of free-flowing jazziness that I like from that era, but it doesn't go too far into it like Laughingstock does. It still feels like Talk Talk, whereas Laughingstock kind of drifts away from that a little bit. But just songs like I Believe in You and The Rainbow and Eden, just it's great. Doesn't quite hit me as hard as it used to. Which is
you had a lot of time with it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be quite as poignant as when you first hear it.
Yeah, but nothing will ever take away the first time I heard it. It really did blow my mind. So Spirit of Eden is my number 9, and that isn't anything against that album. It's just that the nature of this series is that we've done a lot of artists that I absolutely love because we picked them.
This is a competitive list. These are some fantastic albums from some great artists. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're on the list is testament to how good they are. Not the fact that they're at number 9 shows that they're bad, because we've listened to more than 10 albums. We've listened to quite a lot now. And my number 9 comes from a member of my collection, which I'm just going to go and grab now.
Oh.
And destroy your continuity.
In the moment.
Yep.
You are so prepared.
I know, right? I mean, they're in the room. My number 9 is Duke.
Nice. Yeah.
It's I just really wasn't expecting to like it. I knew of a couple of songs just by reputation. I knew Turn It On Again, and I knew Duchess. Duchess only in passing. But listening to it and the weird kind of melancholy that comes with a very poppy album is something that I think it endears us also to Talk Talk. Mm-hmm. The fact that it's a little bit nuanced in its delivery of pop music. Mm-hmm. And I really do think that Phil Collins comes into his own with it. I think it's a very passionate album. And I think that in terms of production, it is Genesis's best. That's controversial. You know how I feel about the Peter Gabriel era. I respect it a ton, and I've talked about those albums at length. But I think that in terms of finding common ground between the two of us, Duke is a great peacemaker. And I really like it. And I love the fact that it's in both of our collections, thanks directly to us doing this project. And so it has a lot of meaning as a result of that. That's the end of my point. Number 9, Duke.
Lovely. I suspected that may end higher, even though it was only a number 2 for Genesis. So I feel like out of the 3 videos we're doing, this might be the most unpredictable. I don't really know.
Yeah, because any artist could come up. It's not a matter of putting some albums in order. Some albums aren't going to feature at all here, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah. My number 8, you talk about the melancholy of pop music. These are the masters of it. Depeche Mode, Black Celebration.
Oh.
Yeah, had to be on there. I think when we did the video, even though it was a whole score lower than Violator for me, I made it very clear that the gap between number 2 and number 3 was substantial. It did make an appearance on one of my favorite albums videos. I'm not sure which one now. maybe
I do remember it. I think I pointed it out. I think it might be 60 to 51.
Yeah, so it was pretty damn high on the all-time list. And it has some of my favorite Depeche Mode songs, in the likes of Here Is the House and A Question of Lust, songs I still listen to. And whenever I do listen to it, it takes me back to that same sort of moody feeling that I do enjoy about that album. It feels very melodramatic and very sort of like, I don't know, there's something so welcoming about it, sort of like the raw emotion that it has. So yeah, Black Celebration is my number 8. You'll be happy to know, and I'm sure it'll land higher on your list.
Well, who knows? Wait and see. My number 8 is from arguably my favorite band. Do you know what it is?
Crowded House?
Yeah, it's Crowded House, Woodface.
Oh, nice.
Despite Chocolate Cake being a crime, I think that this is a really fantastic album, and it's got a lot of hits. And it's quite strange, really, that I hadn't given it a listen to before we did the dive, but I think it's because I was totally averse to Chocolate Cake, and it, unfortunately, it was a necessary evil, had to get it out of the way. It's a great album. I think Neil Finn is a terrific songwriter, and I think that his lyricism and his melodies, they're relatively simplistic, but I think so accessible and relatable. And it's quite something that I think a lot of people, vast majority of people, will know a Crowded House song, and even a Crowded House song from this album, in Weather With You or It's Only Natural, but they won't know that it's Crowded House. It's bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's why I think Woodface is a great album and why it's made the list. Yeah.
I think by now you know that Crowded House aren't going to make my list, unfortunately.
No, I know.
Temple of Low Men can join. What was the other album I said? Color of Spring as an honorable mention.
Not Color of Spring. That's Talk Talk.
Yeah, no, those are my honorable mentions for this list.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about Crowded House still.
No. But
no.
I'm not that stupid, Sam. I'm a little bit stupid. I'm not that stupid. So Temple of Low Men was considered, but yeah, didn't quite make it.
That's the one I thought might have made it.
Yeah, it's tough though. Like I said, these top 9 are all like ones I've really cherished as my favorite albums, and that does not change with number 7, which is the only artist where I was willing to put money on it that you would not have an album on your list, and it is Elliott Smith with Figure 8. Which was actually one that you enjoyed. I think did you give it a 7?
It was my second. It's good.
Yeah, it's a bit long is my only complaint about it, but you know, what is cutting a couple tracks, what much of a difference does that make, really? There's no bad songs, there's a couple that kind of pass me by, but the good stuff is just fantastic. Love Son of Sam, love Everything Reminds Me of Her, and Everything Means Nothing to Me as a sort of duo is really nice. Yeah, there's just loads of really good stuff. LA as well I really like. Can't Make a Sound. I just think it's a really sort of exquisitely done pop album. Sort of, there's still got a bit of melancholy, but the lo-fi beginning of his career is completely gone now. And he is really, it would have been interesting to see what he would have done, because this was the last album he made while he was still alive. So it would have been interesting to see how far he would have gone with that, because it's almost like Beach Boys, Beatles-esque in parts, which I think is very interesting. So
I definitely found more in Elliott Smith with the higher production value. I think that, and the XO I also liked.
Yeah,
I think that was my top one. That they were both more. They had greater depth in terms of their melody and their musical composition, and I did get some enjoyment out of them. So yeah, it was a great album to have there. Another member of my collection coming up for my number 7, as soon as I find it.
I'm not cutting this.
No, there we go. Is that?
Oh wow! Wow,
Meow.
that is
Okay.
surprising.
Gonna stab me in the eye. No, Flesh and Blood. Fantastic. Why is it surprising? You thought it'd be higher?
I thought it'd be top 3 contender, maybe.
Oh, hot dog. I think maybe the reason why it's so low is because I was acquainted with this album before we went in.
Yeah.
We are going to have albums higher in the list that I did also know going in. But this one I've just had a lot of time with, just like you have with Spirit of Eden. And so it doesn't hit as hard. But that A-side is just terrific. It's perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. And it's probably the longest serving member of my collection, is the one that I have a great connection to. And so that's why it's here. But I've known it forever. So it can't be very high in terms of albums we've ranked, because that's just not fair to the ones I've discovered going in. So yeah, Flesh and Blood. It's definitely by far the best that Roxy Music put out. And I think it's genuinely worth a listen to almost anyone. So
yeah, I do think, yeah, it does make a little bit of sense, because a lot of your talk about the album does ride on the famous A-side. So
yeah, a great A-side.
Yeah,
who's complaining?
it is. So my number 6, I think it's dawned on me by now that this artist is not going to show up, which is fine. And it is Abbey Road by the Beatles, is my number 6. So yeah, I think obviously, if you watch the Beatles video, you know this is my number 3 Beatles album, and it's my number 6 album that we've covered. So if that doesn't tell you a story in itself, then I don't know what will. But I spoke about this being, in my opinion, their best sounding album in terms of production. I think the playing is fantastic. George Martin's orchestration is fantastic. Just some of their most classic songs, the likes of Come Together and Something and Here Comes the Sun. And then, of course, I could talk at length, but many people already have, about the second side of the album being the long suite, which ends, of course, with Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight in the end, which to me is the perfect way to cap their career. So I've mentioned Abbey Road multiple times as being my sort of top end of a 9. If it's better than Abbey Road, then it gets a 10. So I've given 5 10s on this show. And Abbey Road just misses out on the top 5 at number 6.
It's funny. I think I don't know if I've actually given a canonical 10 in the show. Oh no, I have, just for a day.
Yeah.
But there's a couple in our list that I'm gonna retroactively change to 10s.
This one's all about. Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll get to that. This isn't the case with this album, the 6th album on my list. Not going to root around in the box for this one, you'll be pleased to know. It's Black Celebration by Depeche Mode, an album that's shown up in both our lists. An album I also knew going in, only had one listen to that though. And I think that it is really where Depeche Mode start getting in their stride. I think that Black Celebration, Fly on the Windscreen, great ways to open. I love Stripped. I think I've made it quite clear that I think Stripped is a phenomenal song. Here is The House succeeds it, which is just Impossible Question of Lust. Dear Oh Dear, Martin Gore knows how to sing, and all the others besides. And it's number 2, and it's in the album ranking, it's number 2. And I think that it's just sensational. And I've really grown to love Depeche Mode, and it's partly because of that album, you know, that it's just up there with the greats.
Yep, definitely one of my favorite albums of the 80s. Sorry. And
emotional.
No, that was just my gut. Number 5. Let's keep talking about Depeche Mode, because my number 5 is Violator.
Hey.
Of course, I gave a perfect 10, and I stand by it. I think it hasn't shown up yet on the favorite albums videos, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, I just think it is a classic of the pop genre. I think it's hard to beat in that sense. I would list tracks, but all 9 tracks are incredible. There isn't a weak one among them, in my opinion. But it is true that a track like Enjoy the Silence stands above the rest as being maybe one of the greatest pop songs ever made. I will die on that hill. It's so catchy, and the lyrics are so great, and it's relatable yet danceable. It's got everything you would want. So yeah, Violator is fantastic. Another one I just picked up recently on vinyl.
Yeah,
I was very happy when we got to the end of that video and we shared that as our number one, because there was a lot of disagreement along the way with Depeche Mode.
But our top two were the same. We synced up.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. My number 5 is Just for a Day by Slowdive. My perfect 10, the only one that's in the canon. It's quite funny because it got me through university. I credit it to being a big source of inspiration for me, and it really motivated me to get in a zone where I could work, and I came through the other side and I did well, and I thank Just for a Day for that. Haven't listened to it much since. Haven't had much cause to, but coming into a new line of work, I think I will need it again. And weirdly, I listened to it so much in the first half of the year while I was at university that it has shown up in my top 100 songs at every one.
Oh my God.
Come up, like shuffling through, you might just get like 4 Slowdive songs in a row.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And it's an important album to me. Not one I discovered, obviously, for the deep dive, but you can't argue with it. It's a proper job album.
Good job album. I will. Well, I was expecting that to be a bit higher, but that's cool. I'm intrigued to see what you've got up your sleeve for the top 4. I think I know what 2 of them are going to be. But other than that, I'm a bit stumped.
Cool.
So
I don't know where you're going either.
My number 4 was my number 2 for this artist, and it was your number 1 for this artist, and it is Revolver by the Beatles, which I will say now is in my top 15 albums of all time. And it's only
spoilers. Not going to watch that episode now. Know what's coming.
But it's only landed number 4 on the albums we've covered, which again shows the bias of me in selecting these artists. That's happened for a reason. But yeah, I talked about Revolver at length. It is a production marvel. The track list is absolutely stacked. I'm Only Sleeping, Eleanor Rigby, And Your Bird Can Sing, Taxman, Got to Get You Into My Life, For No One, Here, There and Everywhere. It's hard to believe all these songs are on the same album because they're all so good. And yeah, it isn't even my favorite Beatles album, but it is one that I would give a 10 again to without a second thought. It is an incredibly important album, not emotionally necessarily to me, which we'll get to an album that is a bit more emotionally important to me, but in terms of my musical discovery, which is what this is all about, this was an album that when I first heard it absolutely changed the way I view music and completely blew my mind. So it deserves to this high just for that, I think, for what it has led me to go down this channel. For one, I don't think I make this channel if it's not for the Beatles. So Revolver's my number 4. Just misses out on a medal, unfortunately.
Oh, bless. You know, it's a competitive place to be, you know, on this list. My number 4.
Wow.
Since getting it on vinyl, I've grown to really adore it. It's just fantastic, and I really do love Talk Talk. I think this is the first time they've come up on the list. Won't be the last. It's a great album, and it's so like that. It's really in your face, and it's Talk Talk go in a different direction after this. This is very much a standalone in their discography. But I really like what it stands for, the start of something amazing and something that I think is very criminally underrated. And I don't think Talk Talk get it nearly enough attention. I think that, you know, this is the start of that. And I think that Talk Talk and Today, they're great singles. The Party's Over, the title track, I've actually really grown to appreciate. Hates, I still haven't really grown to see much in. But the rest of the B-side, Have You Heard the News, Mirror Man, Another World, and Candy have only gone up for me. It really is only hate that brings this down. I really do think this is a great album, and I love owning it, and hopefully it will be joined by other Talk albums in my collection soon.
Yeah, that was the one I wasn't expecting. I think I know the three now. I think I know what they're going to be. Okay. I might be wrong. You might just put For Your Pleasure up there.
Yeah, For Your Pleasure. From
Either
Genesis
or.
to Revelation. Yeah, either or.
Well, my number 3 is one that you've already mentioned. Slowdive, Just for a Day. How could it not make a medal for me? I mean, it is one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard. It's so tranquil yet passionate. It is soothing yet challenging emotionally at times, I find. It's melodic and dreamy at the same time. You know, these melodies get stuck in my head, and yet I can still get lost in the sound. It's an album of a lot of those kind of parallels of things that shouldn't really work together.
Binary opposites.
Yeah. And yeah, I just love Slowdive, and as much as I like, you know, the self-titled and Souvlaki, they are very good albums. Just for a Day is the one that carries the discography for me. As you will have seen in the songs video, songs like Celia's Dream and Waves, Ballad of Sister Sue, Catch the Breeze, the Viking boat song. You know, you'll have to watch the video to get that reference.
Those in the know.
But I love this album, and I was very glad to know that you sort of took it upon yourself to listen to it one night, and then look at us now. We both got in 5 favorite albums we've covered of countless albums, right?
Yes,
a lot.
I don't
I'm
know
not
how
really
many
trying to
we've
guess
covered.
how many we've done, but it's a lot.
About 50.
Yeah, so it's done really well. It gets the bronze for me. It is like you, I don't listen to it as much, but it's like an old friend. Whenever I do put it on, I never want to skip a track. I want to
pick up where you left off.
I want to hear it in full every time, you know. So yeah, Just for a Day is my number 3. A very, very, very respectable number 3.
Yeah, well deserving medal position there. My bronze medal. We're back to back on Talk. The Color of Spring is truly an immense album. I've spoken about it very passionately in the video, so I'm not going to talk about this one too much. Suffice to say, it still carries me forth. I think that it's so good. It's really, I don't know what to say that I haven't already said, because doing the videos just gave me a platform to talk about why I love Talk, why I love Mark Hollis. But Living in Another World is one of my favorite songs ever. So it's got to be up there. I couldn't rank it any lower. But also, as you told by my list, I couldn't rank it any higher. It's fallen at 3rd.
Well, I mean, very respectable 3rd. Like you said, it's a stacked field.
Yeah.
So the
Silver
top two, and I sort of alluded to this, that maybe I thought I had it in my mind which of these 2 albums I prefer, and maybe when I get to the top 10 of the favorite albums, it'll change again. But my number 2 for now is going to be Either Or by Elliott Smith, which I assumed would be my number 1, but doing a different video changed that. Not taking any away from this album, not even Sam's horrid review of it could take anything away from this album. I love it from start to finish. I'm still scarred by that. From start to finish.
It's been the greatest test of our friendship. Yeah. Well, it was the greatest test of our friendship. Calling All Stations might have been another one.
I don't care about Calling All Stations. Fucking ugh. Anyway. This is meant to be Christmas. This is meant to be nice.
Let's not dig up old bones.
Between the Bars is a song we can both agree is a classic. Ballad of Big Nothing, I love. Angeles was my number 1 Elliott Smith song. Find out where it ranks in my ranking of my number 1 songs in the next video. Pictures of Me yeah, Pictures of Me. Pictures of You is the Cure song. Pictures of Me is really, really good. 2:45 a.m. Say Yes. I just love every song. I love it from start to finish. I think every song is so well written, and it just captures a certain mood, just like what I said about Black Celebration. And yeah, just for a day, whenever I hear one song, I'm like, I'd rather be listening to the whole album, which I think is a sign. It is an album that I've cherished since I first heard it, and it will never, ever, ever leave my heart. So Either Or is my number 2. But if I'm being honest with myself, it couldn't be number 1 because we'll get to it.
Is this you sparing my feelings?
No.
No.
I don't care about your feelings. You didn't care about mine.
I haven't featured Invisible Touch. My number 2, Silver Medal. Stumble Alone Man. This is one of the albums I want to retroactively change to a 10. It's my favorite Crowded House album now. Woodface doesn't really scratch up to it. I've actually grown to love every song. So oh my God, it's just the really good songs are When You Come, Love This Life, In the Lowlands, and Better Be Home Soon. And everything else just kind of builds up to them. It's all fantastic. It's a great play. And an underrated album because the songs in it have not really gone up to stardom, especially with Crowded House's discography. Even those who only casually know Crowded House and know their songs, they're probably only gonna know Better Be Home Soon.
Yeah,
it's one of those albums that feels it's a diamond in the rough. I think that it's one of those, my little secret.
I think even Better Be Home Soon, because it's chucked at the end of the album. It's the closing track.
Yeah,
I feel like even that is. I don't think it's synonymous with that album.
No.
So, yeah, very good. Silver Medal. That was my favorite Crowded House album. So it's cool to hear that you've retroactively bumped it up.
We now match.
Yeah. Shame we couldn't have matched in the video, but
I know. Hindsight is 2020.
Or 2022 for now.
22, yes.
No. My number 1. I'm pretty sure you know what's coming. It's the White Album by the Beatles. It was my number 1 Beatles album. And I think hearing it again for the discography was eye-opening. Because obviously I knew I loved it. I knew I was going to give it a 10, but how much I loved it, I think I underestimated a little bit. And the variety of songs on there, it's pretty much like any music I could want to listen to, any type of music I could want to listen to is on that album. It also has Revolution 9, which
number 9.
But of course, we spent too much time talking about Revolution 9 on the album's video, so I'm not going to give it the time of day because
Beatles have done it.
It is, but it's 8 minutes long. But but it does have While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It does have I'm So Tired, Martha My Dear, Dear Prudence, Back in the USSR, Blackbird, Helter Skelter. Do I just go on and list all the other songs? No, because that would be
your channel.
But the White Album is always going to be one of my favorite albums of all time. It's not my very favorite album of all time, and you're gonna have to watch the favorite album series to find out what that is. See, Sam, I've ushered them back now.
Yeah. You've got your cats alive. Yeah. No one's going to watch 20 through 11, but 10 through 1, they're still going to get a view or two.
Yeah. So, predictable, sure. Wrong? No. So, that's my number 1.
Right. Well, with my number 1, I'm going to spoil the chances of you ever commissioning a Sam's top 100 favorite albums by telling you that my favorite album ever is Violator.
Wow.
Yeah, I've not listened to as many albums as you, but if we're going to be honest, this is pretty great. And since I got this for my birthday, I've just kept playing it, and I'm pretty sure my family must be sick of me now. I'm really regretting buying this album. But how can you deny it? It's just fantastic. I mean, I could again list every track because every track is awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't sound that way when I was talking about the album. It turns out I listened to more of the album than exists, and World in My Eyes has grown on me tenfold. So it's an undeniable classic. And like you said, Enjoy the Silence is just a phenomenal hit. It's timeless. And I would argue that this is as well. Every song feeds into the next one. There's a great sense of structure. And I love the mixing. It's really very sophisticated. And there's so much going on. More than even the instrumentation, the way this album has been put together is so incredibly thoughtful. I just think that it's up there with the all-time greats. And this is why I love Depeche Mode.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could talk about Enjoy the Silence a lot, but the deep cuts on the album, like you mentioned, one of my most, I love Blue Dress.
Blue Dress is great. I adore Sweetest Perfection. It's up there with some of my most listened to songs of the year. I think it might be number 2 or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But there isn't a weak song on there. I used to not like Waiting for the Night, but I think that's such a great moody little song. And it works, like you said, the structure, it works so well in the sequence of the album. So
yeah, the closure of the A side.
Yeah, it fits perfectly. So I actually haven't played my copy of it yet, but I'll be getting to that. Don't you worry.
I've played it enough for both of us at this point.
But I haven't heard it yet. So
but this is also a retroactive 10. Just want to make that clear.
Brilliant. Yeah, good to hear. Well, thank you so much for sitting through us talking about albums that you've already heard us talk about.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good exercise because it allows us to amend opinions. I also noticed that you didn't have Invisible Touch, which means that Duke is your new Genesis #1. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be fair to say that Invisible Touch has not stood up to scrutiny. I do own it on vinyl. I think the songs are great, but I think Duke is a more well put together album.
So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us to sort of be like, hey, opinions change. Not that mine have, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. And I hope that we'll do at least another 8 next year, even if we're doing less of them. And we can do the same thing next year, because I know we're going to have Pretenders coming, and then some other artists who we haven't really decided on yet, because we'll leave you in suspense.
Let's get through the Pretenders first.
That'll be coming in January. Once we will be in person, back on the sofa. So fear not, sofa fans.
No, the sofa will return. It's more than just a thing on the screen. Would they have preferred me to have sat over there?
Maybe and shout.
Yeah, my #1.
Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for in the next couple of days. We will have a couple more videos. So yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.